It's a mindset, it's an attitude maybe, and it's super vague, but maybe it's a community.
It's very risky,
financially independent, but it feels indie.
So here's the thing about independent and indie games is especially over the last 5 or so years, indie has grown to mean something completely different than what it used to mean.
Maybe it's developers with not enough money, but then, there's developers like Jonathan Blow. The Witness was definitely made with a pretty big budget. That's an indie game.
There was a big movement in the 90s of garage music, which is essentially, kids in garage playing rock and roll. And it's very raw, it's very emotional, and it's kind of just what people had lying around, the instruments that they could manage, the amps they could manage, terrible, horrible drum kits. There's raw emotion there. And now I think people's garage is now the computer.
The key thing with an indie game is it's very personal. It's kind of unique. It's something you can't get from a bigger studio because it's a smaller studio, sort of focusing on what they care about, and sort of producing the game in a way that you wouldn't do it if you had a lot of people.
I don't think it really matters about team size. I think it's the endeavour. So I think if they're truly trying to make their own products, then yeah, why not,
When you make a AAA game, you've got 100, 200 people, and they're all kind of doing their little thing. And there's sort of you need to make money because you got to pay all these salaries. So you've got to do a certain thing in a certain way. You've got to hit a certain market. But when you're an indie studio and you're working small, you're kind of satisfying yourself more. You're trying to make a game that you would enjoy playing. So it's a little more personal, sort of all through production, you're thinking more personally about what you want to play and what you want to make.
Indie developers are also, when I say that they're not motivated by an outside source or they're not being told what to make by an outside source, there is still outside sources influencing everything that they make. It is ultimately a business. If it's something that you're trying to make a living out of, you want to be able to make something that sells. So you are influenced by whatever the sway of the market is, what makes money and what doesn't make money. But with an indie developer, you get to choose as the game maker what you ignore and what you don't ignore.
Now you can get indie games that for all intents and purposes look like they're a kind of a big budget game, but are still technically indie. So I don't know if it's that useful a term anymore.
Everyone has a computer at home now, and there's a way to be immensely creative with that. And I think that's what's great about indie gaming. Maybe that's what indie gaming is.
I just want to make this, right? I just need this to exist, and nobody is doing it, so I'm just going to do it.
What do you think an indie game is?
Maybe it's more the type of people than the amount of people. I don't know if I believe that you can be indie with 300 people.
Unique or creative games that you haven't seen 100 times before.
It's kind of a strange term because ultimately it doesn't really mean anything, but
And also often producing very short and concise experiences, which other game publishers, would kind of completely shy away from.
Indie as a word is so weird because it doesn't mean anything, and then in stores and in on Steam and in PlayStation and everything, indie is a genre.
When you get to the smaller level, you can be a little more experimental. You can be kind of less focused on just making all these salaries, I guess.
Yeah, the truly being independent, we don't have any financing from anyone. We're self-funding this game. We're trying to do the best we can with the resources we have.
To me, the most important moments of games are their emotional high and low points, and there's no difference. No difference between the feeling you'll get from indies or AAA. It's a hard distinction and one that's definitely blurring.